Tonight I'll be reading to you part four of Mice and Men on page 38. You don't have this book by chapters, but I'm on page 38. Uh, Although there was evening brightness showing through the windows of the bunkhouse, inside it was dusk. Through the open door came the thuds and occasional clangs of a horseshoe game, and now and then the sound of voices raised in approval or derision. Slim and George came into the darkening bunkhouse together. Slim reached up over the card table and turned on the tin shaded electric light. Instantly, the table was brilliant with light, and the cone of the shade threw its brightness straight downward, leaving the corners of the bunkhouse still in dusk. Slim sat down on a box, and George took his place opposite. It wasn't nothing, said Slim. I would have had to drown most of them anyways. No need to thank me about that. George said it wasn't much to you, maybe, but was a hell of a lot to him. Jesus Christ. I don't know how we're going to get him to sleep in here. He'll want to sleep right out in the barn with them. Well, we'll have trouble keeping him from getting right in the box with them pups. It wasn't nothing, repeated. Say, you sure was right about him. Maybe he ain't bright, but I never seen such a worker. He damn near killed his partner, Buck and Barley. There ain't nobody can keep up with him. God Almighty, I never saw such a strong guy. George spoke proudly. Just tell Lenny what to do, and he'll do it if it don't take no figuring. He can't think of nothing to do himself, but he sure can take orders. There was a clang of horseshoe on iron stake outside and a little cheer of voices. Slim moved back slightly so the light was not on his face. Funny how you and him string along together. It was Slim's calm invitation to confidence. What's funny about it? George demanded defensively. Oh, I don't know. Hardly none of the guys ever travel together. I hardly never seen two guys travel together. You know how the hands are. They just come in and get their bunk and work a month, then they quit and go out alone. Never seem to give a damn about nobody. It just seems kind of funny a cucko like him and a smart guy like you traveling together. He ain't no cuckoo, said George. He's dumb as hell, but he ain't crazy, and I ain't so bright neither, or I wouldn't be bucking barley for 50 and found. If I was bright, if I was even a little bit smart, I'd have my own little place and I'd be bringing in my own crops instead of doing all the work and not getting what comes up out of the ground. George fell silent. He wanted to talk. Slim neither encouraged nor discouraged him. He just sat back quiet and receptive. It ain't so funny him and me going around together, George said at last. Him and me was both born in Auburn. I knowed his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just can't come along with me out of working. Got kind of used to each other after a little while. Said Slim. George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him. Funny, said George. I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him. Used to play jokes on him because he was too dumb to take care of himself. But he was too dumb to even know he had a joke played on him. I had fun. Made me seem gosh dang smart alongside of him. Why'd he do any damn thing I told him? If I told him to walk over a cliff, over he'd go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while. He never got mad about it neither. I beat the hell out of him, and he could have bust every bone in my body just with his hands, but he never lifted a finger against me. George's voice was talking. George's voice was taking on the tone of confession. Tell you what made me stop that. One day, a bunch of guys was standing around up the Sacramento River. I was feeling pretty smart. I turned to Lenny and said, "Jump in," and he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. He damn near drowned before we could get him. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more. He's a nice fella, said Slim. God don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy, and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. George stacked the scattered cards and began to lay out his solitaire hand. The shoes thudded on the ground outside. At the windows, the light of evening still made the window squares bright. I ain't got no people, George said. I seen the guys that go around on the ranches alone. That ain't no good. They don't have no fun. After a long time, they get mean. They get one to fight all the time. Yeah, they get mean, Slim agreed. They get so they don't want to talk to nobody. Of course, Lenny's a gosh dang nuisance most of the time, said George. But you get used to going around with a guy and you can't get rid of him. He ain't mean, said Slim. I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean. Of course he ain't mean, but he gets in trouble all the time because he's so damn dumb. Like what happened in Weed? He stopped in the middle of turning over a card. He looked alarmed and peered over at Slim. You wouldn't tell nobody. What he do to Weed? Slim asked calmly. You wouldn't tell. No, of course he wouldn't. What he doing Weed? Slim asked again. Well, he seen this girl in a red dress, dumb bastard like he is. He wants to touch everything he likes, just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress, and the girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up, and he holds on because that's the only thing he can think to do. Well, this girl squawks and squawks. I was just a little bit off, and I heard all the yelling. So I come running, and by that time, Lenny's so scared, all he could think to do is just hold on. I socked him over the head with a fence picket to make him let go. He was so scared he couldn't let go of the dress. And he's so damn strong, you know. Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. So what happens? George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. Well, that girl rabbits and all tell the law she been raped. The guys that we start a party out to lynch Lenny, so we sit in the irrigation ditch underwater all the rest of that day. Got only our heads sticking out from the side of the ditch. And that night we scrammed out of there. Slim sat in silence for a moment. Didn't hurt the girl none, huh? He asked finally. Hell no, he just scared her. I'd be scared too if he grabbed me, but he never hurt her. He just wanted to touch that red dress like he wants to pet them pups all the time. He ain't mean, said Slim. I could tell a mean guy a mile off. Of course he ain't. And he'll do any damn thing Lenny came in the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulder like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. Hi, Lenny, said George. How do you like the pup now? Lenny said breathlessly, he's brown and white, just like I wanted. He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. Lenny, he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh? What do you want, George? I told you you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, and rolled him over. He reached down and picked the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. Give him to me, George. George said, you get right up and take this pup back to the nest. He's going to sleep with his mother. You want to kill him? Just born last night and you take him out of the nest. You take him back or I'll send Slim not to you to let him, or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him. Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Give him to me, George. I'll take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I did it. I just wanted to pet him a little. George handed the pup to him. All right, you get him back there quick. And don't you take him out no more. You'll kill him. The first thing you know, Lenny fairly scuttered out of the room. Slim had not moved, his calm eyes following Lenny out the door. Jesus, he said, he's just like a kid, ain't he? Sure, he's just like a kid. There ain't no more harm in him than a kid neither, except he's so strong. I bet he won't come in here to sleep tonight. He sleep right alongside that box in the barn. We'll let him. He ain't doing no harm out there. It was almost dark outside now. Old Candy, the swamper, came in and went to his bunk, and behind him struggled his old dog. Hello, Slim. Hello, Slim. Hello, George. Did neither of you play horseshoes? I don't like to play every night, said Slim. Candy went on. Either of you guys got a slug of whiskey? I got a gut ache. I ain't, said Slim. I drink it myself if I had, and I ain't got a gut ache neither. Got a bad gut ache, said Candy. Them damn turnips gave it to me. I know they was going to before I ever ate them. The thick body Carlson came in out of the darkening yard. He walked to the other end of the bunkhouse and turned on the second shaded light. Darker hell in here, he said. Jesus, how that black guy could pitch shoes. He's plenty good, said Slim. Damn right he is, said Carlson. He don't give nobody else a chance to win. He stopped, sniffed the air, and still sniffing, looked down at the old dog. God almighty, that dog stinks. Gotta get him out of here, Candy. I don't know nothing that stinks as bad as an old dog. You gotta get him out. Candy rolled to the edge of his bunk. He reached over and patted the ancient dog, and he apologized. I've been around him too much. I never noticed how he stinks. Well, I can't stand him in here, said Carlson. That stink hangs around even after he's gone. He walked over with his heavy-legged stride and looked down at the dog. Got no teeth, he said. He's all stiff with rheumatitis. He ain't no good to you, Candy, and he ain't no good to himself. Why don't you just shoot him, Candy? The old man squirmed uncomfortably. Well, hell, I had him so long, had him since he was a pup. I herded sheep with him, he said proudly. You wouldn't think it to look at him now, but he was the best damn sheepdog I ever seen. George said, I seen a guy in Weed that had an Airedale, could herd sheep, learned it from other dogs. Carson was not to be put off. Look, Candy, this old dog just suffers himself all the time. If you was to take him out and shoot him right in the back of the head, he leaned over and pointed right there. Why, he never know what hit him. Candy looked about unhappily. No, he said softly. No, I couldn't do that. I had him too long. He don't have no fun, Carlson insisted, and he stinks to beat hell. Tell you what, I'll shoot him for you, then it won't be you that does it. Candy threw his legs off the bunk. He scratched the white stubble whiskers on his cheek nervously. I'm so used to him, he said softly. I had him from a pup. Well, you ain't been kind to him keeping him alive, said Carlson. Look, Slim's bitch got a litter right now. I bet Slim would give you one of them pups to raise up, wouldn't you, Slim? The Skinner had been studying the old dog with his calm eyes. Yeah, he said. You can have a pup if you want to. He seemed to shake himself free for speech. Carl's right, Candy. That dog ain't got no good to himself. I wish somebody would shoot me if I got old and a cripple. Candy looked helplessly at him, for Slim's opinions were law. Maybe it hurt him, he suggested. I don't mind taking care of him. Carlson said, the way I shoot him, he wouldn't feel nothing. I put the gun right there. He pointed with his toe, right back of the head. He wouldn't even quiver. Candy looked for help from face to face. It was quite dark outside by now. A young laboring man came in. His slopping shoulders were bent forward, and he walked heavily on his heels, as though he carried the invisible grain bag. He went to his bunk and put his hat on his shelf. Then he picked a pulp magazine from his shelf and brought it to the light over the table. Did I show you this, Slim? He asked. Show me what? The young man turned to the back of the magazine, put it down on the table, and pointed with his finger. Right there. Read that. Slim bent over it. Go on, said the young man. Read it out loud. Dear editor, Slim read slowly. I read your mag for 6 years. I think it's the best on the market. I like stories by Peter Rand. I think he is a wingding. Give us more like The Dark Rider. I don't write many letters. Just thought I would tell you I think your mag is the best dime's worth I ever spent. Slim looked up questioningly. What you want me to read that for? Witt said, go on, read the name at the bottom. Slim read, yours for success, William Tennant. He glanced up at Witt again. What you want me to read that for? Witt closed the magazine impressively. Don't you remember Bill Tenner? Worked here about 3 months ago. Slim thought, little guy? He asked, drove a cultivator? That's him, Witt cried. That's the guy. You think he's the guy that wrote this letter? I know it. Bill and me was in here one day. Bill had one of them books that just come. He was looking in it and he says, I wrote a letter. When did they put it in the book? But it wasn't there, Bill said. Maybe they're starving it for later, and that's just what they done. There it is. Guess you're right, said Slim. Got it right in the book. George held out his hand for the magazine. Let's look at it. Witt found the place again, but he did not surrender his hold on it. He pointed out the letter with his forefinger, and then he went to his box shelf and laid the magazine carefully in. I wonder if Bill seen it. He said, Bill and me worked in that patch of field peas. Run cultivators, both of us. Bill was hell of a nice fella. During the conversation, Carlson had refused to be drawn in. He continued to look down at the old dog. Candy watched him uneasily. At last, Carlson said, if you want me to, I'll put the old devil out of his misery right now and get it over with. Ain't nothing left for him. Can't eat, can't see, can't even walk without hurting. Candy said hopefully, you ain't got no gun. The hell I ain't. I got a Luger. It won't hurt him none at all. Candy said, maybe tomorrow. Let's wait till tomorrow. I don't see no reason for it, said Carlson. He went to his bunk, pulled his bag from underneath it, and took out a Luger pistol. Let's get it over with, he said. We can't sleep with him stinking around in here. He put the pistol in his hip pocket. Candy looked a long time at Slim to try to find some reversal, and Slim gave him none. At last, Candy said softly and hopelessly, all right, take him. He did not look down at the dog at all. He lay back on his bunk and crossed his arms behind his head and stared at the ceiling. From his pocket, Carlson took a little leather thong. He stooped over and tied it around the old dog's neck. All the men except Candy watched him. Come on, boy, he said gently. And he said apologetically to Candy, he won't even feel it. Candy did not move nor answer him. He twisted the thong. Come on, boy. The old dog got slowly and stiffly to his feet and followed the gently pulling leash. Slim said, Carlson, yeah, you know what to do. What you mean, Slim? Take a shovel, said Slim shortly. Oh, sure, I get you. He led the dog into the darkness. George followed to the door and shut the door, set the latch gently in its place. Candy lay rigidly on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Slim said loudly, one of my lead mules got a bad hoof. Got to go get some tar on it. His voice trailed off. It was silent outside. Carson's footsteps died away. The silence came into the room, and the silence lasted. George chuckled. I bet Lenny's right out there in the barn with his pup. He won't want to come in here no more now he's got a pup. Slim said, Candy, you can have any one of them pups you want. Candy did not answer. The silence fell on the room again. It came out of the night and invaded the room. George said, anybody like to play a little Untra? I'll play a few with you, said Wit. They took places opposite of each other at the table under the light, but George did not shovel the cards. He ripped the edge of the deck nervously, and the little snappy noise drew the eyes of all the men in the room, so that he stopped doing it. The silence fell in the room again. A minute passed, and another minute. Candy lay still, staring at the ceiling. Slim gazed at him for a moment and then looked down at his hands. He subdued one hand with the other and held it down. Then came a little gnawing sound from under the floor, and all the men looked down towards it gratefully. Only Candy continued to stare at the ceiling. Sounds like there's a rat under there, said George. We ought to get a trap down there. Whit broke out. What the hell's taking him so long? Lay out some cards, why don't you? We ain't going to get no cards played this way. George brought the cards together tightly and studied the backs of them. The silence was in the room again. A shot sounded in the distance. The men looked quickly at the old man. Every head turned towards him. For a moment, he continued to stare at the ceiling. Then he rolled slowly over and faced the wall and lay silent. George shuffled the cards noisily and dealt them. Whit drew a scarring board to him and set the pegs to start. Whit said, I guess you guys really come here to work. How do you mean? George asked. Whit laughed. Well, you come on a Friday, you got 2 days to work till Sunday. I don't see how you figure, said George. We're going to go ahead and stop here because we still got quite a ways to the next chapter. So we're on page 50 when we come back. And so we're on page 50, and there is 105 pages, so we're close to being halfway through. And I'll see you guys on the next reading.